Hi, welcome to Inge's Knitting Lab and this series on how to make the tree trunk sweater. In this episode I will show you why and how to apply hip shaping on the male edition of the sweater or the cardigan if you knit that one. So let's jump into the overview. Male bodies are just as different as female bodies, so let's look at these different body types to see which of those would perhaps benefit from hip shaping. When I talk about adjusting a pattern to fit your body type, I go back to the foundation being the golden ratio. It's math. It's a universal math ratio given by nature. And if you follow this rule when you dress, it would give you guidance on how to dress with harmony for the eye. If you are more interested in hearing about the golden ratio, there is not lots of information out there, and I talk about it in more detail in my episode 22 in the knitting podcast. So here we will just jump to the conclusion here, stating that by math there are ideal body types by nature. And the males is this inverted triangle, and in a female it's an hourglass shape. But today we talk about males. So when we look at this body type here, we see that he is much wider at the back and the shoulders than here at the hips. And when we make sweaters for this body type and knit a body straight down, it will look oversized here at the hips and perhaps flow out, or what you say, look floppy here. You can have a look here at my hobby being this type of body shape, and this sweater here you see is knitted straight down. So when he turns around here, you will see that it is rather big on his hips. So now look at this other example here where I have changed the exact same sweater so that it now has hip decreases. And he would like it this way. He thinks it looks more flattering, that the lower body fits better and it is not going outwards looking floppy here. Out of curiosity, I have taken all the board sweaters he has, and they apply exactly the same principle here. Let's have a look at the other body types. We go this way. So the oval one you see here, it is the same thing. The back is and shoulders are much wider than the hips. However, perhaps your man has grown a bit of a tummy here, giving this oval shape. And if you look at him from the side, it will be like this. So we have two things to have into consideration when we make a sweater, because perhaps we need extra fabric in the front to cover this tummy so that it will not raise in the front. However, we still need some decreases to do here so that it will give a better fit at the hips. So my suggestion here would be that you knit your sweater to the fullest point of the tummy, then apply tummy darts, and you start, when you have finalized your tummy darts, you start hip decreases. Whereas for this body type, you will start the hip decreases already here after casting on stitches at the underarm, so that you start already here. However, here start at the fullest part of the tummy. When you look at the trapezoidal shape, it is almost the same as over here, however not as much, but the hips are still of a smaller circumference. So again, using hip decreases here from the underarm cast on, however not as a big ratio. Let's look at this triangular shape here. Here you have the opposite of the one over here. So he is wider at the hips than the shoulders. So of course hip decreases would not be applicable here as for the other three. So you would just, I guess, knit a straight down body here. However, maybe you would choose a sweater starting top down so that it fits his shoulder, and then at the underarm you can cast on more stitches to fit the lower body. That could be a suggestion. If you have a rectangular shape, a straight down body would be of preference. So yeah, let's move on to the actual hip decreases used in this sweater, tree trunk sweater. I have now worked the number of rows called for in the pattern to start the decreases here for this size, which is a size small. It looks a bit different for the cardigan using another top-down principle of knitting than the sweater, but the hip decreases are exactly the same. So I start placing a center marker, and the pattern tells me to place a marker before the center stitch. And depending on size, you will have an uneven or an even number of stripes here. So when you have an uneven number of stripes, I have 3 in this case, the center stitch is a knit stitch. However, if you had an even number, let's play that these would be these 4, then your center stitch will be a purl stitch. So before I start the actual knitting, let's look at some samples on how they look on the sweater once you're done. Here we see an example of the uneven number of stripes. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I will start doing decreases like this so that the stripes will flow, kind of flow towards the center stripe as you go down here in the body. As you will see from the pattern, I advise 4 or 6 or 8 decreases here depending on your size. So for size small, I will end up having 2 less stripes in each side, so a decrease of 4 tree trunk stripes at the hips. Let's have a look at if you have an even number of stripes at the underarm. Then it would look like this. We will end up doing the same thing over here, but we will start here changing this purl stitch into a knit stitch in order to start the decreases like this, and then we will again have a center stripe and these stripes leaning towards the waistline here. So this is how we do it. So let me get started. You may notice the end of round or start of round being here at the cardigan. However, at the sweater, it is over here when you started the front piece. So either way, the end of round is not at the center, but here we do the hip decreases. So let me look at the pattern and see that when I start up now, I will knit until 3 stitches before the center marker. So let me move towards the center here, 3 stitches before, and then I need to purl 1. And you may think this is strange, but let's look at this one again. It's in order for this center stripe to stand out, then we make a purl here. You see? And then we knit 2 together, slip the marker, knit 1 and do an SSK to remove this purl stitch, however provide a new one. So we purl 1 here. And I do exactly the same thing at the other sleeve. Let me show you how to start the hip decreases at the other sizes having an even number of stripes at the underarm. Here we have the purl stitch as the center stitch. If this was my size, I would have changed this purl stitch into a knit stitch at the cast on here at the underarm, giving me 7 adjacent knit stitches here. I didn't because this is another size. So this is just the example. So I will work the pattern until 3 stitches before the center stitch here, and then I will do an SSK. I will knit 1, slip the marker, knit 2, and this would be a knit stitch all the way down, as I said, and then I will knit 2 together. Let's have a look at the sample we had here. So you can see here I changed the purl stitch into a knit stitch, giving me the 7 adjacent knit stitches, and we made the decreases here, and we will make yet another one in the same way up here, and then we change to the principle of the size I'm working here. I have now made the first round of hip decreases at both underarms here, and I'm ready to continue. And I will make the same distance here before doing yet another round of decreases. You may notice that this one is actually shorter than before in the video. You're right, it's because I realized that I had knitted too many rows here before starting the decrease round, so I had to rip back and start over. So that's what I've done. This pattern is adjusted so that the hip decreases are not that dependent on the total length of your sweater, so that you can adjust the length to your desired length. But more about that in the end of the video. Let's meet up when I reach the second round of decreases. I was in such a knitting flow that I skipped showing you the second hip decrease round here, but it is exactly the same as the one I already showed you, and it is again here at the third one. But let's have a look at the results for now. So you see the principle of the decreases is to reduce the stripe here beside the center stripe so it leans to the center. So here we have 3 knit stitches, 2 knit stitches, 1, and up here I will turn this one into a purl stitch to prepare for the final decrease, where we are back to having only one, let's see, having only one tree trunk stripe here before the hem. So this is the way. So you'll see here there are 2 purl stitches. So let me just do it, and I can keep on knitting until the 4th and final one. So I turn the last knit stitch here into a purl, knit 2 together, slip marker, knit 1, SSK, and a purl, and a purl. And then I do exactly the same thing at the other underarm. Once I have made the final decrease here at the other underarm, I will go back to the section in the pattern, the straight body section, and then I will continue working in the round to my desired length. I promised to get back to you regarding the placement and frequency of the hip decreases. I have made the design of the hip decreases so that they accommodate the flexibility of your desired length of the sweater. This means that when you have finalized the final hip decrease, you just continue working in the round, and in this way you could do it shorter or longer depending on your desired length. Again, with reference to the golden ratio, I recommend the total length of this men's sweater or cardigan to be 2.5 to 5 centimeters below the belt line, which equals 1 to 2 inches. In the pattern, you will find a fact box help explain what you can expect from your fabric after blocking and wear, because this rib pattern will widen and hence shorten after blocking. So how would you know how many extra rounds to add to account for this shortening to get your desired length? Yeah, well, you can see my recommendation in this fact box, and I distinguish between this dyed yarn and the undyed yarn, because when you dye this untreated, that is a non-superwash yarn, with the dye, it affects the fibers here, so they are not as elastic as the undyed one, and hence the undyed will shorten more than the colored yarn. Let me show you by example here, because I have the swatch for this sweater or cardigan here, and I have an example of the undyed one. So just to see the effect of the blocking and wear here, and on the undyed one you can see quite some shortening here of the fabric. So it's both the effect of the whitening of the fabric, but also the shrinkage of the yarn. So when we look at this colored or dyed yarn here and fabric, you will see that it does shorten here. However, when you compare the undyed and the dyed one, you will see then that the dyed one does not shorten as much as the undyed. This is why I make different recommendations, and here they are. So if you use an undyed one, I guide you to stop working when you reach 1 centimeter before your desired length. That's around a half an inch, and then add the hem. If you are doing a colored or a dyed yarn, then start working the hem 3.5 centimeters before your desired length, and then add the hem. That's around 1.5 inches. So in this way, you will make the extra rounds from the hem accounting for the shortening of the fabric. Yeah, that was perhaps a long talk, but you know what? When you have spent so much time working your sweater and you like the result and you start wearing it and it crawls up, or what you say in English, it shortens so much that it approaches your navel, then it's not a funny thing, is it? Then you have to, of course it's fixable, you can cut it up and add length, no problem, but it takes time, and yeah, you are probably off to a new project. Let me make the extra rounds here before I start the hem, and we can look at the final design of the hip shaping. I am ready to start the hem. So here you see the final result of the hip shaping design. And here the waist part when doing a sweater and a cardigan, because at the sweater I will just change to 1 needle size smaller and work the 1 by 1 ribbing of the hem until I do the Italian bind off. When doing the cardigan, I will end my round here at the center of the piece and bind off stitches and work the hem, the 1 by 1 ribbed hem, back and forth to prepare for the steeking here down in the center. So let's meet up in another episode where I will show you how to prepare for the steeking doing this bottom hem.